I've grown up with a lot of superhero media in my life. Spider-Man, the X-Men, and Batman all had successful animated shows and live-action movies when I was younger. But as our film landscape has become more superhero-centric, soup-centric? Whatever. As our film landscape has become more hero-centric, nailed it, I found myself pushing further and further away from the genre. And not to brag, but I fell off the train early. Like pre-Endgame early. The last MCU film I saw prior to Guardians 3 was Black Panther, and I watched it at home during lockdowns. I was done. But just when I'm out, they pull me back in. Invincible did that, and I want to talk about why it rules. Let's do this. So, part of what makes Invincible work as a show is its animation style. Obviously, the designs come from the book itself, embracing a bright, colorful superhero style. It feels like what you expect from a superhero. Heavy use of primary colors and simple but evocative silhouettes, embracing the vibe of the earlier pre-90s era comics. In many ways, it feels in line with Saturday morning cartoons to me, just revamped for a modern, more adult audience. And we gotta get into that. While I'm not here to break down every plot beat of the show, you can't really discuss the show's themes without spoilers, so here is your spoiler warning. Okay? Cool. The reveal that Omni-Man, our title hero's father, is a murderous villain set the tone for the entire show. And not just in the violence, but that is part of it. Prior to this scene at the end of episode 1, the action was a lot more fun, less violent. Not full-on Saturday morning cartoon clean, but still much more tame. That way you can feel the impact and shock when the biggest moments, like this first one, come up, really emphasizing the truth behind being a hero. From what I understand in the comics, the reveal comes in issue 6, partway through the second trade paperback, and I'm glad they did it right away in this show. It casts an ominous shadow over the entire season until our lead finds out the truth. You never know when Omni-Man's next outburst will come, or who his next victim will be. And once Invincible and the others do find out the truth, we get to see the complicated ways it's dealt with. Mark hates his father for how evil he is, but he has spent most of his life looking up to him, and that baggage isn't something you can just turn off. Personally, I'm lucky enough to have a great relationship with my dad, both my parents honestly, but a lot of people don't. I know that. It's hard to both love and hate somebody at the same time. And that's what makes Invincible, the show, so great, is that it isn't just a story about good versus evil, but about the spectrum of it all. Villains like Omni-Man can show compassion, and heroes in the same way can do questionable things. More spoilers here, but the character Robot steals genetic material of another character, Rex, to clone himself a new human body. But he makes that human body a child because the woman he loved ages in reverse when using her powers, and he wanted them to appear the same age so they could be in a relationship. Meaning, on top of cloning Rex without consent, we get a man attracted to a woman who, despite her age, looks like a child. It is weird. It is messy and living in a gray area that makes it so interesting to watch. Also, I'm going to say this because I know comment sections and how they can be, but Amber did nothing wrong. She was not mad at Mark because he is invincible or because he saved her. That is a shallow, honestly dumb reading of why she got mad at him. She was upset that he was lying to her. If she was mad that he was a hero, they wouldn't get back together in season 2. Being mad at your partner for lying to you, especially over a long period of time, makes perfect sense. Conflicts coming from having a secret identity is the core to so many heroes, and conflict is the core of compelling storytelling. Everybody out there complaining that she didn't react to something so big with perfect, level-headed grace are just wrong, and they wouldn't be doing that in the situation either. Unreasonable reactions is part of being human, and the point of Invincible is bringing truth and humanity to a story about evil alien invaders. Come on, just come on. Now, gray area storytelling is nothing new to comics, or superhero comics specifically. I just feel that the big budget blockbuster takes on superheroes, especially the MCU at large, feels like it uses the idea of a moral gray as a thin decorative layer on their storytelling. You may disagree, but that's just my take on it, and that's why it started feeling so boring to me. Just look at Anissa in season 2. Shit. This is a spoiler video. She does believe that a Viltrumite invasion is good for the people of Earth.
It's complicated.
No, it isn't. We have the technology to repair their climate, feed their hungry, punish their criminals. We will save more of their lives in a single year than you could in 100. You are failing this planet and its people. Do you not see that?
Compare that to MCU Thanos, whose motivation is not completely dissimilar, and you see the difference where his motivation seems tacked on in the Avengers movies where he's the primary villain, just so that way they can have the whole, oh, the villain's right thing, but it doesn't feel the same as introducing it right from the start with a character like hers. And again, I'm not talking source material here, I'm just talking about in the adaptations we've been given. I also feel like a lot of superhero media is just about superheroes, either in a deconstructionist way or just in a aren't they great, why would we ever want anything else kind of way, if that makes sense. Now, I feel we can't fully discuss Invincible in this way without bringing up their contemporary, The Boys. I don't like The Boys. It is also a show that takes a darker look at the world of superheroes with an evil Superman analogy, but it feels very different in tone. While Invincible plays on the complexities of being human, The Boys has a more nihilistic view. It paints people more on the spectrum from bad to worse. So, while I hear it is a huge improvement from the source material, I was not interested in watching past the first season of The Boys. It just wasn't for me, but I can't get enough of Invincible. Apparently they want to do a live action version of the show as well, and I just want to go on record and say I think that is pointless. I don't see any way that the story can be improved by doing it in live action over animation, and it really just feels like they're trying to appease to people who don't take animation seriously, and that sucks. Let me make an animated Gideon the Ninth show, you cowards. Invincible reminded me of how much fun I can have with the superhero media. It got me to finally watch the 2019 Watchmen series on HBO, as well as finally getting to the Spider-Verse movies I had been putting off for far too long. They were a blind spot of mine that I've been rightfully shamed for. You know, it's excellent stuff that I was putting off because other superhero stuff wasn't doing it for me. But even with all that, there's a bigger thing.
I got into superhero comics.
I never grew up with comics. I had a few that I must have gotten as gifts, but they were never a major part of my life as a kid. By the time I started to read them, my tastes were already drifting away from capes. Like, I have read a few of the classics, like Watchmen and House of M, but these are short, contained stories, not overarching, major books. To divulge my tastes a little, Lock and Key, one of my favorite series. Sex Criminals 2, fantastic. I've worked my way through the entirety of both of those series, and I know I will again one day. I'm also excited to start Saga at some point, and I've been making my way through 100 Bullets right now, but watching Invincible is what got me into superhero books. And I'm not even reading Invincible. I got my start with the show, and I want to see my way through that without spoilers. I'll probably get to reading it when the show is done, so I can compare the differences then. But when I decided to start looking for a superhero book, I picked up Radiant Black.
There are decades of important landmark runs of superhero comics, and I grabbed the series that started in 2021. I know, I picked this in part because of the art. Don't judge a book by its cover is a lie, that's what the cover is for. Marcelo Costa's art is gorgeous, inspired by Power Rangers and other tokusatsu series, and it spoke to me as someone who watched the Americanized shows like that growing up. These characters look like they belong in a lineup with things like Ultraman and Power Rangers, but not feeling like a direct copy. The Radiants take their own shape. My main draw, above the art, was what I had heard of Kyle Higgins' writing on the book, centering on characters who struggle financially or are burnt out from poor work-life balance, only to then have powers dumped on them as well, and we get characters that feel relatable to our current world. And there is a gray morality as well. We've yet to get a protagonist that I would call evil, but there are plenty of moments where characters do the wrong things. Hell, the protagonist of Rogue Sun, a book set in Radiant Black's massive verse, starts the story as a high school bully. He doesn't see himself that way, but he is.
These books do what all great genre fiction does, uses the genre to tell compelling stories about characters. Just like how Hereditary uses its occult horror to show us a family falling apart after a tragedy, things like Radiant Black and Invincible use superhero adventures to show us the struggles of their heroes and villains. The original idea for this video was how Invincible got me into superhero comics. But knowing the algorithm, I knew I couldn't just make a video on that. That was too personal, there wasn't enough meat there. I needed to think deeper on how the show did that, and it did so by making me think deeper on superheroes than I had for a long time. I pride myself on how I engage with the media I consume, especially as media literacy seems so undervalued in the discussion of said media because of the contentification of film and television. But I was still writing off an entire genre off of my experience growing tired with one franchise. I'm glad Invincible exists, even with the long production cycles, breaks in the middle, killing its season momentum. I'll take all of that stuff because the end product means a lot to me, not just as entertainment, because to me, it is so much more. Thank you so much for watching. I'm always excited when I get to make videos that essentially let me just gush about the things I love. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and until next time, have a good one.